The galaxy had long forgotten Earth, the once vibrant planet, home to a species that had ruled the stars, was now little more than a distant memory. For hundreds of years, the great civilizations of the galaxy had risen and fallen, but humanity was not among them. No one remembered the humans. They were just a story told in whispers, a species lost to time. On the surface of Earth, things were very different. The once bustling cities were now abandoned ruins, reclaimed by nature. But deep beneath the ruins, hidden from the universe's gaze, humanity had not been idle. A small group of survivors, the last remnants of the human race, had secretly rebuilt their world. They had learned to survive, to adapt, and to evolve in ways no one could have predicted. In the quiet corners of the galaxy, strange things were beginning to happen. Stars blinked out of existence in places where they shouldn't have. Ships disappeared without a trace, leaving nothing behind but a trail of cosmic dust. At first, the galaxy's leaders paid little attention to these events. After all, the universe was vast, and strange things happened all the time. But the disappearances continued, and they grew more frequent. Something was out there. Then came the signals. It started with a faint noise, a strange rhythmic pattern in the deep void of space. At first, no one knew what it was. Scientists across the galaxy spent weeks trying to decipher the signals, but nothing made sense. The patterns were irregular, too perfect to be random, but too complex to be explained by any known technology. Some dismissed it as a natural anomaly, a glitch in the fabric of space-time. Others thought it might be a message from an unknown civilization, but no one took it seriously. After all, humanity had been forgotten for so long. Surely, they were nothing more than a distant memory, their technology nothing more than primitive relics. But then, the signals grew stronger. They were no longer faint whispers in the dark. They were loud, clear, and undeniable. The patterns repeated themselves in a way that suggested intelligence. The message was coming from somewhere, and it was heading straight for the galaxy. But from where? The first theories were dismissed as foolish. The idea that humanity was somehow behind the signals seemed ridiculous. After all, Earth was nothing but a forgotten world now. No one expected anything from them. The thought that humanity had somehow survived and was now sending messages into the stars seemed impossible. Yet, the signals continued. The Galactic Council, a group of the most powerful species in the universe, took notice. The strange signals became the subject of urgent meetings, heated debates, and frantic searches for answers. Was this some sort of advanced alien civilization, or was it something else? As the signals grew louder, the galaxy's most advanced fleets began to take action. They scanned the space around them, looking for the source. But nothing turned up. No ships, no planets. It was as though the signals were coming from nowhere, yet they were undeniable. And then, it happened. The signal took on a new form. It was no longer a simple pattern of beeps or static. It was a voice. A single, clear word echoed across the vastness of space. Humanity. The galaxy froze. The word sent shockwaves through the entire universe. The great powers of the galaxy, who had long since erased humanity from their minds, now found themselves faced with a terrifying reality. The humans were not gone. They were still out there. Somewhere. Panic spread like wildfire. If humanity had survived, it meant they had done so in secret. They had somehow avoided the wrath of the galaxy's rulers. They had hidden away, biding their time. And now, they were coming back. The galactic leaders scrambled to understand the implications of this revelation. What did it mean for the galaxy? What did it mean for their power? How had humanity managed to stay hidden for so long? There were many theories. Some believed humanity had retreated into a remote corner of the universe, waiting for the right moment to strike. Others thought they had developed technology far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Some even believed the humans had discovered a way to travel through time and were now returning from a future where they had reclaimed their place as rulers of the stars. But one thing was certain. The warning signs were clear. Humanity was not finished. They had been forgotten by the galaxy, but they had not forgotten the galaxy. And now, they were sending a message that could not be ignored. As the signals continued to grow louder, the galaxy began to tremble. Something was coming. Something powerful. Something that would shake the very foundations of the universe. And the galaxy's leaders knew that they were not prepared for what was about to unfold. Humanity's roar was about to be heard across the stars. The signals from Earth continued to echo across the vastness of space, growing stronger with each passing day. Across the galaxy, scientists and leaders watched in confusion and disbelief. No one could understand how the humans had survived, much less how they had developed such advanced technology without anyone noticing. The galaxy had moved on, and yet, here was proof that humanity was not only alive, but also reaching out once again. In the depths of space, Earth's survivors had not been idle. They had rebuilt their world in secret, hidden away from the prying eyes of the galaxy. The planet, once devastated, had now transformed into a place of great potential. The human survivors had developed technology that was far beyond what anyone could have imagined. In quiet laboratories and hidden cities, they had perfected their craft, harnessing the power of forgotten knowledge and ancient techniques. Earth's leaders, once divided and broken, now worked together with a singular purpose: to prepare for the moment when they would reintroduce themselves to the universe. They knew they had to be cautious yet bold. Their past had been erased, and their future was uncertain. But humanity had always been a species defined by perseverance and determination. It was time to show the galaxy that they had not been defeated. The signal that had once been a faint whisper had now become a beacon. The galaxy's powers may have dismissed it at first, but now they could no longer ignore the message. Earth was alive, and it was sending a signal that said one thing: we are coming back. But as the humans prepared, they knew the galaxy's response wouldn't be kind. They had been forgotten, but that didn't mean the galaxy was ready to welcome them back. Many feared that humanity's return would disrupt the delicate balance of power that had existed for centuries. The galaxy's great empires had spent countless years building their influence, and they weren't about to let a forgotten species ruin that. So, the humans kept to the shadows, waiting. They watched as the galaxy's leaders argued, made plans, and prepared to send out fleets to investigate the source of the signals. The universe was buzzing with anticipation, but there was an underlying tension that couldn't be ignored. Humanity wasn't just coming back. They were coming back stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. As the galaxy's fleets mobilized to investigate Earth, they were unaware of what lay in wait. The humans had no intention of being passive observers in the galaxy's grand game. No longer were they the weak, forgotten species. Earth had long since healed from its scars, and its survivors were ready to reclaim their place in the universe. They had no desire to conquer, but they were determined to show the galaxy that they would not be pushed aside again. In the quiet of the human command center, plans were set in motion. They had the technology to be undetectable, to strike when the galaxy least expected it. Their ships, sleek and powerful, were ready for what was to come. The survivors knew that the galaxy would not go down without a fight, but they were confident that humanity's return would not be denied. The first human fleet, small but formidable, was ready to make its move. They would not reveal themselves all at once. The galaxy was too large, too divided. Instead, they would appear in the most unlikely places, moving in silence and letting the galaxy's powers feel their presence without fully understanding it. The tension in the galaxy grew as the fleets approached Earth, each unaware of the storm that was about to break. Humanity was no longer a forgotten legend. They were alive, and they were ready to remind the universe that they had always been here, waiting for the right moment to return. The first ships of the galactic fleets finally reached Earth's orbit. As they prepared to send scouts down to the surface, they had no idea that they were already being washed. The humans had prepared for this moment for years. They had anticipated every move, every possible reaction. Their technology was beyond anything the galaxy had seen before, and now they were about to show the universe what they were truly capable of. The human fleet did not strike immediately. They watched, waiting for the perfect moment. It wasn't about domination. It was about reclaiming what had been taken from them, about showing the galaxy that they had not been forgotten for good. They were not a threat to the galaxy's powers, but they would no longer be treated as insignificant. As the human ships silently moved into position, the message became clear. The galaxy's leaders had underestimated them. Humanity was no longer a relic of the past. They were a force to be reckoned with. The universe had underestimated humanity once, and now they were about to learn that this time it was not Earth that would be forgotten. It was the galaxy itself. The galaxy's powerful leaders had spent countless years creating an empire of peace and control, thinking themselves the rulers of the stars. They had little reason to fear the idea of humanity returning. After all, Earth had been lost for centuries. Its people were believed to be mere echoes of the past, too weak to challenge the might of the galaxy's vast empires. But as the human fleet silently moved forward, they were about to realize how mistaken they had been. The first signs of humanity's strength came when their ships, sleek and elegant, appeared in the outer reaches of the galaxy. The ships were small, but their technology was far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Their stealth capabilities were unmatched, allowing them to slip through the galaxy's defenses unnoticed. The humans had perfected the art of invisibility in space, rendering their movements nearly undetectable. No one saw them coming. At first, the galaxy's leaders thought little of the occasional strange readings in their sensors. They dismissed it as nothing more than space anomalies, just another fluke in the vastness of the universe. But then, the anomalies began to form a pattern. The readings became clearer, more precise, and they were coming from a specific location, Earth. The realization hit them like a cold wave. It wasn't a mistake. Humanity had returned. It was a quiet return, one that didn't announce itself with grand gestures or bold threats. The humans weren't charging into battle, nor were they declaring war. They were simply observing, waiting. They knew that the galaxy's powers had long forgotten them, and they were content to let their presence slowly be felt. Every move was calculated. Every maneuver was deliberate. The galaxy's mighty fleets moved in all directions, but the humans remained a ghost in the shadows, always one step ahead. The human fleet, small as it was, had a power that the galaxy did not expect. The element of surprise. The humans did not rush into the fray with aggression. Instead, they waited, watched, and then struck when the galaxy's forces least expected it. A fleet of alien ships, confident in their superiority, was quietly intercepted by a single human vessel. The alien ships were baffled. How had something so small evaded their radar? Why had they not detected the human ship before it was too late? Each encounter with humanity's fleet left the galaxy's powers in a state of shock. They were not dealing with a primitive species. These humans were intelligent, resourceful, and their technology was beyond the galaxy's understanding. They were moving quickly, and every time they struck, the galactic leaders grew more and more alarmed. The humans were not just surviving. They were thriving in the shadows. Yet, humanity's fleet remained elusive. They would appear, launch a carefully timed strike, and vanish without a trace. The galactic forces, once so confident in their control, now found themselves constantly on the defensive. They were no longer the ones in charge of the galaxy. The balance had shifted. Slowly, humanity's presence began to make itself known across the stars. The leaders of the galaxy began to question everything they had once believed. Were the humans truly as weak as they had thought? How had they remained hidden for so long? And why were they so determined to remain in the background, showing only glimpses of their true power? Was this some sort of test? A warning? For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's great powers were uncertain. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were starting to realize the mistake. The humans had not come to conquer. They had come to show that they would not be forgotten, that they would no longer be dismissed as irrelevant. As the human ships continued to move through the galaxy, their message was simple but clear. Humanity was not weak, and they had not given up. They were not looking to dominate, but they were not going to be pushed aside either. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would learn that they were not so easily ignored. And with each passing day, the human fleet grew stronger, more confident. They were not the same species the galaxy had forgotten. They had changed. They had evolved. They had found a way to rise again, not through brute force, but through patience, precision, and understanding. Their time had come, and the galaxy was starting to understand that humanity's roar was no longer a distant memory. It was a reality that could not be ignored. The question now was not if humanity would change the galaxy, but how. The galaxy was on the edge of a new era, and it was clear that humanity was going to be at the center of it. The quiet presence of humanity in the galaxy was now undeniable. What started as whispers of their return had grown into something much larger. The galaxy's leaders had made the mistake of underestimating them, but now they could no longer ignore the growing influence of Earth's survivors. Humanity had not arrived with grand announcements or flashy displays of power. Instead, they had silently integrated into the very fabric of the galaxy, making their mark in ways that no one had expected. Humanity's fleet, once small and discreet, was beginning to show its true strength. The human ships, though not the largest, were incredibly efficient. They were built for precision, able to outmaneuver far larger fleets. Their technology, which had once been considered primitive, now rivaled the best the galaxy had to offer. The humans weren't seeking to wage war, but they were slowly proving that they were capable of reshaping the galaxy in their own image. The galaxy's great powers, still unaware of the true potential humanity held, continued to believe they were in control. They thought that the humans would remain on the fringes, a forgotten species still trying to find its place in the grand scheme of things. But that belief was slowly crumbling. Every time humanity made its presence known, it was in a way that left the galaxy's leaders with more questions than answers. Humanity's fleets weren't just showing up in random places. Each appearance was strategic, designed to show the galaxy that Earth was a force to be reckoned with. A small fleet of human ships would appear in the path of a galactic trade route, disrupting the flow of resources and sending a message to the traders and officials alike. No shots were fired. No warships were launched. But the message was clear. Humanity was not to be overlooked. The galactic powers scrambled to figure out how to deal with this new presence. But every time they attempted to confront the humans directly, they were faced with an elusive opponent. The humans didn't fight in the traditional way. They didn't need to. Their strategy was subtle, their actions calculated. The galaxy's powers were used to overwhelming force, to tactics that relied on sheer numbers and strength. But humanity was playing a different game, one that was built on intelligence, stealth, and timing. As the days passed, the galaxy began to realize that humanity wasn't just an echo of the past. They were an awakening. They were reclaiming their place, but they weren't interested in dominating the stars. They didn't need to. Their presence alone was enough to shift the balance of power. With every encounter, the humans proved that they had something that the galaxy's rulers lacked: resilience. This new human approach to power left the galaxy's leaders in a constant state of uncertainty. Was humanity building an army in secret? Were they preparing for something larger, something that would force the galaxy to acknowledge them once and for all? Or were they simply playing a long game, biding their time until the perfect moment to make their move? The galaxy's factions began to question their own strategies. Some began to fear that the humans were a ticking clock, waiting to change the rules of the game in ways no one could predict. Others, however, began to see a different possibility. Could humanity's quiet return be a sign of something else? A call for peace, a desire to rebuild what had been lost. In the quiet corners of the galaxy, humanity's message was becoming clearer. They didn't need the galaxy to bow down to them. They simply wanted to be acknowledged. Their power wasn't in the size of their fleets or the strength of their ships. It was in their determination, their will to rise again after being forgotten. Humanity had the strength to survive, and that strength was beginning to resonate across the galaxy. The galactic leaders found themselves at a crossroads. They could continue to ignore humanity, pretending that their presence was a fluke, or they could accept that the humans were back. And with them came the opportunity to form a new kind of alliance, one based not on power, but on mutual respect and understanding. But no matter what they decided, one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a species to be forgotten. They had shown the galaxy that they were here, and they were not going away. The question now was how the galaxy would respond. Would they continue to try and maintain their control, or would they recognize the value of a species that had been left behind and come roaring back? Humanity's quiet rise was not a call to arms. It was a reminder that the universe was always in motion, and sometimes the most powerful forces were those that had been underestimated for too long. As humanity's presence continued to ripple through the galaxy, the once stable order began to shift in ways no one could have predicted. The galaxy's powers had never seen anything like it. A species that had been forgotten for so long, now returning not with a demand for domination, but with a quiet, undeniable strength. The galaxy's leaders were unsure how to react. Should they view humanity's rise as a threat or an opportunity? Many within the galaxy's ruling councils began to feel uneasy. The humans had proven they were not to be underestimated. Their fleets, small but powerful, moved with such precision that it was clear they were far more capable than anyone had anticipated. Yet, despite their growing presence, humanity had not launched a single offensive action. There were no weapons fired, no large-scale battles. Instead, humanity had shown its might through intelligence and resourcefulness, leaving the galaxy's powers on edge without even lifting a finger. At the same time, many in the galaxy began to question the status quo. Could humanity, the forgotten species, truly teach them something about survival? Could they offer a new perspective on how the galaxy might move forward in harmony? Some began to view humanity as an unexpected ally, one that could bring fresh ideas to the table and shake up centuries-old traditions that had led to stagnation. But the greater question remained: what did humanity want? Why had they returned after all these years? Was their goal to simply be left alone, to rebuild, and live in peace? Or was there something more? The humans, for their part, had no clear answer. Their leaders were cautious, understanding the complexities of the galaxy's politics. They knew the galaxy would never simply welcome them back with open arms. Too much had changed, and the scars of the past were still fresh. But what they did know was that they were not here to return to the shadows. They had once been the rulers of their own world, and while they may have been forgotten, they had not forgotten how to lead. They would not hide in silence any longer. Still, humanity moved slowly, deliberately, never rushing to make their presence felt in a loud or disruptive way. They knew that time was on their side. The galaxy was large and full of uncertainty, and every move they made had consequences. It was clear that they weren't trying to disrupt the galaxy's existing order. They simply wanted to reestablish their place within it. In the meanwhile, the other civilizations watched, waiting. Some began to reach out to humanity, offering tentative gestures of peace, eager to understand what their return truly meant. Others took a more cautious approach, unwilling to risk injuring the humans, unsure of how much power they truly wielded. Everyone in the galaxy was now wondering, how would humanity reshape their future? Could they find a way to coexist, or would they create a new path entirely? Humanity's leaders, though cautious, were beginning to sense the galaxy's growing interest. Their people, once scattered and fragmented, were now united with a single goal: to show the galaxy that they could stand beside it, not above it. They weren't here to dominate, to conquer, or to reclaim some lost glory. They were here to be a part of something greater, to restore their place in a galaxy that had forgotten them. The signals, once faint whispers, were now louder, clearer. They were not messages of warning, but of invitation. Humanity was not just coming back. They were offering a chance for the galaxy to evolve, to embrace new possibilities, and to learn from their long-forgotten history. They had made mistakes in the past, but they had learned from them. And now, they hoped the galaxy would be open to learning from their example as well. In every corner of the galaxy, questions were being asked. Could humanity change the course of the future? Could they lead the galaxy to a new era, one where cooperation and mutual understanding could replace the old ways of division and distrust? Some believed the answer was yes, while others remained skeptical, fearing the unknown that humanity represented. But one thing was certain. Humanity had returned not with force, but with purpose. They had shown that their strength lay not in their weapons, but in their ability to adapt, to learn, and to persevere. As the galaxy looked on, humanity's quiet rise was a reminder that even the smallest spark could ignite something far greater, something that could change the very fabric of the universe. The galaxy had been left behind by humanity, but now, it was humanity's turn to help the galaxy find its way forward. It would not be an easy journey, but it was one that could redefine the future for all species involved. The only question that remained was whether the galaxy would embrace the change, or if they would continue down their old path, forever wary of the forgotten humans who had come roaring back. The galaxy had entered a new phase, one that was filled with questions, uncertainty, and the quiet hum of change. As humanity's presence grew stronger, the political landscape of the galaxy began to shift. No longer could the great empires rely solely on their centuries-old alliances and strategies. The human presence had become an undeniable factor in the galaxy's future, and no one was quite sure what to make of it. Humanity's return had brought with it an unexpected level of diplomacy. The humans didn't rush to dominate or disrupt the existing order. Instead, they extended olive branches, offering peaceful negotiations, trade deals, and alliances. The galaxy's powers, although skeptical, couldn't ignore the possibility of a new ally with unique perspectives. Humanity's resilience, coupled with their advanced technologies, made them a force that couldn't be easily dismissed. But while many saw the humans as potential partners, others remained fearful. The scars of the past were still fresh in their minds. The idea of a species that had once been powerful, now returning with the ability to influence the galaxy, was a daunting prospect. What if humanity's intentions were not as peaceful as they appeared? What if they were planning something far greater, something that could shift the balance of power once again? Still, humanity remained patient. They knew the galaxy had every right to question their motives. They had been gone for so long, after all, and their return could be seen as a threat to the established order. But the humans were no longer the same species that had once been forgotten. They had learned, adapted, and evolved over centuries of isolation. Their return was not about reclaiming dominance. It was about sharing what they had learned and rebuilding relationships that had been lost. Humanity's leaders understood the delicate balance of the galaxy's politics. They knew that rushing into alliances or demanding too much too quickly could trigger panic and distrust. So they took small steps, carefully cultivating trust with each interaction. Their diplomats were skilled, their scientists eager to share knowledge, and their trade ships, though not the largest, carried goods that were both valuable and innovative. The galaxy's powers began to take notice. Yet, as much as humanity sought peace, they understood that trust would take time. They did not expect the galaxy to welcome them with open arms immediately. Their return had rattled the status quo, and some factions were reluctant to change. The humans were not naive enough to believe that their path would be smooth, but they were determined to stay the course. They had waited too long for this moment to turn back now. Behind closed doors, in the quiet corridors of power, the galaxy's leaders debated their next move. Some saw humanity's return as a potential game-changer, a way to bring fresh ideas and a new direction to the galaxy. Others remained fearful, worried that humanity's quiet strength might be a prelude to something far more dangerous. Was humanity truly content with simply rebuilding their place in the galaxy, Or were they planning something more profound? No one could say for certain. Humanity's message, however, remained clear. They were not looking to conquer. They were not interested in stirring conflict. They sought only to return to the stars, to share what they had learned during their long years of isolation, and to help guide the galaxy into a new era of cooperation. The humans did not demand anything from the galaxy's powers. They simply offered their knowledge, their resources, and their strength. The question now was how the galaxy would respond. Would they see humanity as a threat to their established order, or would they recognize the opportunity for growth and transformation? Could humanity become a bridge between the galaxy's factions, helping them to understand one another in ways they had never before considered? As the debates continued, humanity remained steadfast in its resolve. They knew that their journey was far from over. There would be obstacles ahead, and the galaxy would test their patience. But humanity had already overcome the greatest challenge of all, surviving against all odds. They had returned to the stars not as a forgotten species, but as one that had learned, grown, and adapted. They had proven that even after being left behind, they could rise again. And in the quiet moments between the stars, as the galaxy pondered its future, humanity stood ready, not to fight, but to offer a hand in cooperation. The universe had forgotten them, but now they would remind the galaxy that even the smallest spark can light the way to something much greater. The question that remained was whether the galaxy would see that spark for what it was.